Good evening and welcome to this week's episode of Coach's Corner. My name is Dwayne Dwyer. I go by the Mindset Coach,
My name is the Uncle Junior, and I go by the Consistency Coach.
and we are your coaches for Coach's Corner. As always, I like to say if you are here and just looking to get the information and then go back and do nothing with it, you're probably in the wrong place. But if you're here because you're looking to change and move outside of your comfort zone, be an impact for others, and create lasting change within your environment, you're in the right place at the right time. I believe that you are destined to be sitting right where you are, listening to the voice of myself, the Mindset Coach, and my good friend, the Consistency Coach. So, that being said, let me speak to my brother C Square, the Consistency Coach himself. How are you doing today, my friend?
Man, I'm doing good, man. Again, still sucking down pollen, but all is well. Another day, another week, and just enjoying all of the good things that life has to offer at this point in my life.
Yeah, I got you, man. I'm gonna send a crew to your house and put a bubble around your house to protect you from the pollen, bro.
Yeah, do it. Yeah, hey, I seen one on TV on the TikTok yesterday. It was a bubble garden or something. Lady, it was raining, and she went out there and got in her little bubble, and you could hear the rain just coming down, and she was outside on the back of her deck. I was like,
I
that'd be
can see,
nice.
I can see the dangers. Oh my goodness! People do some daring things. I say it that
Mhm.
way. So I
Yeah,
can imagine somebody who decided to sit out there in the midst of a bad storm. So anyway, that's
yeah. All
um,
storms ain't created equal.
no, man, absolutely not.
Hmm.
As far as me, man, all is well. All is good. Again, greatly appreciate always being able to share in conversation with you. Always enjoy connecting with the most livest chat on social media.
Hmm.
So listen, you guys, wherever you are, Facebook, whether you're on YouTube, whether you're on LinkedIn, Instagram, make sure that you get in the chat and say hello because we want to make sure that we appreciate you because this is an interactive chat. Like your comments, your questions, all of that stuff becomes a functional part of the conversation, and we value you. So I want to make sure that I shared that. Make sure that you hit that like button. Make sure that you share it right now before the conversation gets started because I know C Square gonna come with the information today, and I'm just here to get along with the ride.
Oh man, we're gonna have a good one today. And I also want to shout out. I didn't have a chance to. I did have a chance, but I didn't let you know. But last week was a really good episode. So if you missed last week's episode, go back and check it out. It was called "Decode Conflict Like Astronauts," and there was a really good conversation. Honestly, I'll be a little transparent. Sometime when Coach throw these topics up there, and I'm just like, man, I don't know. Coach is very intellectual. He really deep. He ain't the mindset coach for no reason. So I was a little nervous. Um, but I think that that's a good thing. But man, it turned out to be, in my opinion, a really good show. I think we had some really good, thought-provoking conversations. So if you haven't, please go back and check out last week's episode.
Well,
Now,
I
go ahead,
want
go ahead.
to I want to thank you for saying that. First of all, I don't I don't. It's not an intention and this is not to you. This is to anybody. It's never my intention to create difficult conversations. But I think this being Coach's Corner, I think we should be intentional about giving you something to walk away with that you can use right now. And sometimes if we do it differently, because everybody's talking about like you said, that show was conflict resolution, right? Everybody
Hmm.
talks about conflict resolution, but it all sounds like the same thing. It becomes an echo chamber. So,
Hmm.
we talk about it from different perspectives. They be like, wait, that actually makes sense. So that's kind of like my goal. That's what I strive towards. Thank you for saying that. I greatly appreciate that. And I'm honored just to hear that come from you. So thank you again.
Yeah, man, absolutely. Today, again, welcome to the chat. Welcome to chat. I know you already welcomed it, but appreciate everybody for being here. So before we get started, man, we got a question for us and for the chat. So um, actually, before we do, I got a little bit something to say, but I ain't gonna blow it up. I'm just gonna leave it right here. Just a little monologue just to get us started. So ambition is the fire that pushes us to grow, achieve, and leave our mark. Gratitude is the fuel that keeps us grounded and fulfilled. But in today's hustle culture, many of us are chasing success so hard that we forget to appreciate the present. Tonight, we are diving into what it looks like to be truly balanced ambition, what it looks like to truly balance ambition and gratitude. Because success without peace is still a form of failure. Let's talk about how to chase greatness without losing joy along the way. So again, starting with tonight's first conversation piece. This is again, both of us are going to answer, but we also like to chat to go on and jump in the pool with us, you know. So can you be both content and still hungry for more?
Simple answer, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Not so simple answer. That's the challenge. I think I think a lot of times what we do, we have in our mind what we want to accomplish. And let's just say we accomplish that. Well, do I just stop at that point? Do I take a knee? Do I take a break? Whatever that looks like. Or do I recognize that there's still more that I can do? And I think that's the challenge. A lot of it is more in, some of it becomes that I focus more inwardly. So once I achieve said goal and I get to a place of comfort, I want to stay right there. Well, comfort zone is not some place that we're supposed to stay. Comfort zone is supposed to be a constant challenge that we pursue to overcome. So learning to be a base and a bound at the same time is key, right? Because maintaining a sense of humility while recognizing um, that more than enough and plenty is always available. I think a lot of times we struggle because we exist in the space believing that we have finite resources. And so, like you mentioned, hustle culture. Well, that's kind of like the thing that drives hustle culture. Let me hustle, 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 and get as much as I possibly can as early as I possibly can. But what happens when you have that mentality is that you fail to appreciate anything that you obtain. So then what I obtain becomes a thing of commercialization because I want everybody to see what hustle culture can do for you. You got to grind, you got to do this, you got to, that becomes a mentality. But is it possible that I can humbly do the things that I need to do, progress, and help people along the way? That's what a humility piece coming at because I have to recognize that there were times where I was eating ramen noodle. You know what I'm saying? That was dinner. You know, waking up in the morning, grandma made some grits, get some grits, put the backpack on, I'm going to school. You know, we didn't have hot water, so we heat the water up on the stove and took it to the bathtub and poured it in the bathtub, and that's how we took a hot bath, right? Those times were present for me when I was younger. I remember that. Those things are designed to keep me humble. They're designed to keep me content. So in any situation I find myself in, I always try to ensure that I am content, but recognizing that where I am is good. However, there's still some place I need to go as well. Because in going there, I meet new people, and meeting new people, I help new people as well. So I think this is a phenomenal start to this conversation already. So if this is the beginning of it, I know it's going to be great. But to me, I always say the challenge is being content by recognizing that more than enough is available.
Yeah, I'm definitely on board with your response and your perspective. Same thing, simple answer, yes. And I like the analogy about, being a child and being content with where you are, but still wanting more. I'm okay. I remember we had times where we did that too. When the gas they cut the water off, that's what you had to do. So I definitely remember that. And, I thought about that when I was little, and I remember having to do that. So that's good, man. So I definitely appreciate everybody who responded in the chat as well. So we also going to continue on. We'll start off with a scenario question. We'll roll right into one of these. So the question is meant to end exactly the way it ends. And this is it. A man works 60 plus hours a week to give his family a better life, but his partner feels emotionally abandoned. That's all you get. This is your scenario.
I'm good with it. I'm good with it. First and foremost, make sure y'all hit that like button
It
though.
was some more. I cut the end off. I'm just
No,
like,
you're
nope,
good. No,
I'm
you're good.
leaving it right here.
Yeah, no, you're good. Um, First things first. Generally, this is more common than most people realize, especially depending upon what phase of life they're in. If they're in the earlier phases of life, it is probably common to work 60 hours a week. So the question that I,
Military.
yeah. So the question that I initially ask is like, what type of conversation did you have with your spouse before getting into this life? Understanding and that we're working on something together. What I'm doing and what you're doing may not necessarily look the same, but it's for the same purpose. So you're going to have to be okay with 60 plus hours a week until I get to the point to where I don't have to do 60 plus hours a week. Maybe later, 60 plus hours a week looks like 25 plus hours a week, right? Some weeks I work 25 hours, some week I work 50 hours, some week I work 10 hours, some week I may work 60 hours. So having that conversation early helps to kind of mentally prepare for what is to come. Then I also say that you don't want to disregard the fact that the spouse, because it doesn't necessarily, yeah, you know what I'm saying, but that the spouse feels emotionally abandoned. So let's talk about that. Like, why do you feel emotionally abandoned? Like, things of that nature. I think it's important to have that conversation as well, because how the spouse feels is valid to the spouse. It may not necessarily change anything moving forward, but that's now an opportunity for you to have the conversation that you should have had moving forward. Then it may be important to reassure the spouse, to remind them, point the spouse back to the original intent, the original goal, the original plan, the original vision, because we are partners working this together. I literally had this conversation, um, and I have to make sure that I'm intentional to where as I'm talking about it, no one can determine who it is, even that person. I literally had this conversation one day, and that person asked me, "How do you balance doing this and being a good husband at the same time?" I said, "Oh man, that's a good question." And you're asking a question to a person who failed at doing it in their earlier life,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I say, let me explain something to you. I say, what you're going to have to help your wife understand is that being a military wife is going to require a lot of sacrifice. So whatever you're doing in the army, it's not you doing it, it's you're doing it. You are both of you. We are doing it. When you exercise the power of we within the relationship, then it kind of gives her a sense of ownership as it pertains to what you're doing. So now, even though she's not the one going to PT, she's not the one going to work, she's not the one being called in the boss's office, she's not the one having to deal with soldiers, things of that nature. Now you can share in conversation. Here's the challenge, though: that individual has a clearance. So some of the conversations that she want to have, he can't have with her. And so I shared that with him as well. I say, so you have to share what you can so that she feels a part of the process and isn't feeling alienated to where all I do is this, all I do is that. That's it's easy for the non-military member to start feeling that way. And I'm not just making this about the military, I'm making this about life in general. It's easy for the spouse to feel like, like something that's being drug along in this thing called life. It's your responsibility. And I hate to say it this way, and it's going to sound kind of difficult, and some people may not necessarily agree. It's your responsibility as the husband, the man of that house, because that's the question he asked, to make sure that she feels that what she is doing is valuable to the entirety of the cause.
That was a mic drop. I wish I'd had my finger over the button, over the gold nugget, but that was definitely a gold nugget right there, especially that end piece. I'm in agreement. Where are these people at in their life? Agreed with you. This conversation should have been held before. However, sometimes even though we have the conversation, we still may find ourselves in a situation. Maybe they had the conversation. Maybe they sat down and explained, say, "Hey, yeah, babe, I'm in the military. I'm doing this. I'm be working these 60 hours. I'm working these extra hours, and everything is good. These extra, 20 hours or plus I'm working every week. The overtime, I'm getting paid time and a half. It's going to allow us the ability to purchase a home in a couple of years. We're going to be able to stack some money aside so the kids can go to college, or so and so turned 16. We can do this. So and so's playing travel baseball. We can have the opportunity to pour into, and do more things that we want to do as a family. And then she may buy into it. But then as time goes by, we don't understand sometimes what we really bought into. And then now time goes by, and now she's like, oh man, emotionally he's not there. He's at work 60, 70 hours a week now. So now this is a time, like you said, we need to revisit. We need to have a conversation. We need to sit down and figure out what's going on in here, because maybe they got off path, maybe they're still on path, but there's some sort of disconnect that needs to be communicated between the two parties.
Ooh, ooh, ooh.
Ooh,
Financial
ooh, ooh.
plug.
What we got?
Financial plug. Do
Mm-hmm.
not use the 20 plus hours to pay for emotions. I'm telling you,
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
the
What you mean? So are
partner
you saying, okay, no, go ahead. What you mean by that?
the partner is feeling emotionally abandoned. A lot of times, what the man wants to do is go buy her something so she can feel better. That is
Mm,
a temporary fix to a long term problem. That will never solve the problem. And a lot of men feel driven to do that. Don't do that. Sit down and have the conversation, like I said prior to. Talk to them, help them to find comfort in the space that we're in right now so that you guys can move forward healthily. Because if you start that trend, and unfortunately, a lot of people do. If you start that trend, it's going to become cyclic. It's going to happen over and over and over again, and then eventually, it's going to be hard to get out of. So don't do that. Don't use the 20 plus hours to finance the emotions.
mm. Man, that's a really good point. Moving on, man. How can gratitude actually fuel healthy ambition instead of slowing you down?
My initial answer is that gratitude helps you appreciate the process. It helps you appreciate every step of the way. When you don't have gratitude in the midst of the process, now you start looking at success versus failure. Failure, harnessing the fact that you failed or you didn't accomplish the thing that you want to accomplish, um, it's a thing. It's not the right thing. But if we turn that around and learn to appreciate the fact that I had the experience, learn to appreciate what you learned in the midst of failure and do it again, then I think what we'll find is that we will never view failure as failure until we no longer attempt to do it. We will view failure as a thing that kind of set the conditions for success to actually happen. But then I also look at the idea of healthy ambition. I think ambition by itself is healthy. I just think sometimes we point the ambition in the wrong direction, or we just have the wrong mindset for the thing that we're ambitious for. I think ambition alone is healthy. So when we have gratitude and we combine it with ambition, then we're constantly moving forward without being lagged down by the way we feel in relation to not necessarily achieving what we want to achieve.
And where I'm at in my age, I mean, where I'm at, my age, where I'm at my age, and this kind of even goes back to the first question over here, and it's like at my age, I not necessarily struggle, but I think a lot about um, at what point do I want to just chill and kind of just like not do anything anymore? Part of me, well, I know in a few years I want to buy some property and not really do a lot. I don't want to be off the grid or anything like that, but I do want to pretty much wake up and piddle around the house all day or piddle around the farm. Like I don't know if I want to be on a computer, like really doing anything. I kind of really want to be doing other things. Um, the plan is to be in the space financially where I can do that for the rest of my life. So it's like trying to figure out, do I keep pushing? What I mean? If I keep pushing, what am I pushing for? I think where I'm at right now, my needs will be met for the rest of my life. So it's like, at what point, do I keep going to the point to whereas I'm gonna have regret and be like, man, I wish I would have pulled the plug earlier. So um, how can gratitude actually fuel healthy ambition instead of slowing you down? I'm working through this right now. I'm very happy and thankful. I'm very grateful for where I'm at in my life. Um, and I'm still ambitious about certain things, but I'm not as ambitious about other things. And in certain areas, my ambition is driving me, it's keeping me going. In certain areas, it's kind of like not really that enthusiastic about that anymore. You know what I mean? What's the purpose behind this? Why am I doing this anymore? You know, so I am a walking, living example of this question right now. And I am literally navigating my life with this question right now. So that's my response to this. I know you got something to say,
So,
Mark.
so I mean, it really does sound similar to the first question, though, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not the first question, the second question. I'm sorry. It really does sound similar to my response to the second question.
Mm-hmm.
Like, go back and point yourself to the original um, vision, right? Does that still exist? If that original vision still exists, then what happened in between the original vision and where you are right now? That's a question that you have to answer within yourself. um, because life happens. I can be motivated to, and trust me, that's part of being a human, right? You can be super motivated about doing a thing while you're doing a thing, but then as time progresses, you will feel yourself start to wane in motivation. So, do I lean into, how I'm feeling right now, or do I lean into the original goal that I set for myself? Because that kind of helps me to understand that how I'm feeling right now, um, again, it's how I'm feeling. But now I have to analyze how I'm feeling, get to the why behind how I feel, and things of that nature. So that's what I would say. That would be my response to that. You got to go back and have that conversation with yourself and demand an answer.
So in essence, you need to go back to the starting point, back to the vision,
Well,
and
yeah,
then
go back to the vision. Like, why did I
mhm,
start this in the beginning? Like, what was the vision then? What was the goal that I established then? Right? And then, again, it happens all the time. When I start doing a thing and I feel really good, and we went through the exact same thing when we was in school, right?
mhm,
When we were pursuing that graduate degree, there
yeah.
was a point in time you're like, man, I'll be so glad when this is over,
Oh,
right?
ready to throw in the towel.
Right. But it was something that kept you going. I think it was focusing on the end state, focusing on the finish line. And you got to the point you had like three classes left.
Mm,
It's like, man, you look at the calendar and say, I'll be done by this date, right? So you
mm,
kept looking at the finish line. And I think that's what we got to do all the time.
yeah.
The same thing happens when you start talking at larger goals. Trust and believe. And I'm saying this for everybody. When you set these lofty goals for yourself, you're going to feel like, man, I ain't going to ever get to the finish line because you're shooting for Moby Dick, right? But you ain't caught one fish yet. Well, you need to learn how to reel that fish in first before you go try to reel that whale in. So start with
Mm-hmm.
the fish, then move from the smaller fish to a bigger fish, then go for like a larger fish, maybe something dolphin size, marlin or something of that nature. Get your boat, get them, get
Yeah.
your reeling and rocking on, right? Because that's how you got to do them big fishing, and it
Really
takes
rock.
a lot of energy. Yeah, you got to reel and rock. It takes a lot of energy. Well, how much energy you think is going to reel that whale in? So this is building up your strength and your stamina. So when you cast out for that whale, right? Because you're gonna catch some smaller fish and you're going to end up throwing it back. I don't want that, right? I'm good with catching smaller fish. Yeah, yeah. You shark food now. Go swim. But you building up the stamina to catch that whale. So that's what I would say. Go back and look at the vision, focus on that, and then try to figure out what happened between how you were feeling here and how you're feeling now.
I like that. Somebody's got some more game. Y'all getting nuggets today. Um, we both got we both have children who are over the age of 18 now. So we have adult children now. And one of the things that we are charged to do as parents is to teach. And this is our children, the next generation, all of these different things. But sometimes um they ain't doing enough. You know what I mean? And sometimes they are. I remember on the football field when I was coaching, over at the high school, kids like, I'm this, I'm good. And they think they're real good. But I'm just like, bro, y'all not playing nobody. Y'all not playing the real dogs. You know what I mean? In the sense, y'all not enough. You know what I mean? But it depending on how you say you are not enough comes off, it could be seen as positive or it could be seen as not it could be seen as negative, or it could be seen as someone could take that same thing and be like, you know what, I need to do better. So with that being said, how do we, as unks and OGs now, and how do we teach the next generation who want more without always feeling like they aren't enough?
Well, that's interesting. Um, I really do live by the philosophy that when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. I think a lot of times what happens is we are ready to be a teacher to a student that isn't ready to be a student. So that requires both teacher and student to prepare themselves to fill their role. So as we, the teachers, are waiting for the student to show up, we need to prepare for the student. That's part of that previous question about, um, you know, gratitude and ambition. So when we stop and think about it, it's not about whether or not wanting more is the issue. Do you have the passion for the more that you claim you want? You can want it. My granddaddy had an old saying, and I can't say it here, but I give you part of it. He said, "Boy, you can want in one hand and do something else in the other and see which one fill up first." Y'all know what I'm talking about. We probably had the same granddad. Stop playing. Um, my bad. I'm sorry. That was low.
I mean, we find out at the funeral.
Oh
Hey,
man, but that's true. Just because I want something does not necessarily mean I'm going to do the work to get the thing that I want. So you telling me what you want sounds really good, but how serious are you about what you want? How passionate are you about that thing? Is it a driving force for you now? Because if that's the case, now you might be ready to do the work, but that does not necessarily mean that you're ready to be taught. So because you're as the older generation used to say, because you're full of piss and vinegar, right? You're gonna run out there and run up against a brick wall, dust yourself off, probably runs to you still motivated. Then you're gonna realize that motivation ain't enough. Then life is gonna happen. You're gonna come back. You're gonna start feeling a little down, head a little low. What's wrong? Then you'll share it. In the midst of sharing it, now the teacher gets to show up because the teacher's first work is not to teach them how to get what they want. The teacher's first work is to help them to understand it doesn't matter how you feel, you're always enough. That's one of the biggest stumbling blocks that I think a lot of people have to overcome. They don't feel like they're enough. Well, who decided that you were enough, and why does your feelings contradict that? When you really start getting after that and helping people to understand that how you feel does not equate to who you are, then you will realize that you need to do what you're supposed to do regardless of how you feel.
man, you talking about people's feelings
My
over
bad.
here,
My bad. I didn't hear it until after it came out.
but but I mean, feelings is something else. Feelings change all the time.
They do. They
Can't be so
absolutely
invested in them.
they absolutely do. And that's the thing that's probably the first and most powerful lesson that the teacher can teach the student. Once the student grasps that and understands that and say, you know what, I get that. That makes sense. Then I think they're ready to work as a student for what they want.
Mm. I don't even want to add to that one. That was just that was on point. Um, yeah, that was on point. And I can see a lot of just seeing a lot of resemblance to just certain things, since I've been in education and stuff like that, looking at relationships, and how some of them have changed and evolved over time with students and teachers, even from like the beginning of the school year to the middle to the end. So, um, yeah, man. Scenario. This could be anybody, but in this scenario, she loses 30 pounds, hits personal records in the gym, but still feel like she's not doing enough. How can she find joy in the progress without being obsessed with perfection? And I'll go first on this one. Um, just being content and being okay and having the ability to go back and look at what you've accomplished, and being able to accept it and see that this is just part of your journey is, I'm not saying it's a skill, but maybe it is a skill. But if you can learn that, that's a really good thing. There are a lot of people, and I was in this myself. I remember um almost same example. I had a trainer a few years ago. I was going to go on stage and do a bodybuilding show, and I was working through, and I was like, man, after about 6 weeks, I was like, man, it's just I didn't really see the difference. I was sending them pictures every week of front, back, and side profiles and stuff. And then after I sent that email, his response was he sent me my picture from day one, and then he sent me my picture from 6 weeks out, and I could drastically see the difference. But I don't know if I was in a mood that day or what, but I couldn't feel it. I didn't see it. I didn't see what he saw as the trainer. So I think sometimes we find ourselves just not being able to see things, not being able to go back and pull from those accomplishments that we've done in the past and be say, hey, you know what? I did do something. I am better. I did accomplish 30. I did lose 30 pounds. You know what I mean? Most people have a hard time trying to lose 30. 30 pounds is a lot. 30 pounds is a lot of weight to lose, and it is hard. It's hard to lose 30 pounds. You know, and set records stuff, but then still feel like she's not doing enough. Like, you know, you the only way I was no, that person is doing enough. You know what I'm saying? It took a lot. It took a lot of willpower. It took a lot of a whole bunch of things in order to do that. But sometimes they can't find it. So I think sometimes what they need to do is they have to be able to get in a place where they can go back and look and see the accomplishments. You know what I mean? And understand that, the 30 pounds is just part of the journey. You know what I mean? We're trying to get, who knows, we're trying to get to 60 pounds. You know what I mean? So the ability to see that, hey, I've moved from point A to point B. Now it's time to move from point B to point C. But I think sometimes it's not as easy. It's easy in theory, but it's not always easy in action. And this is part of the scenario. You know, it's not there for the action part. So
Yep, I agree with all of that. Actually, I would first ask her, how does she define enough? Because you lost 30 pounds. Maybe she was looking to lose weight and add muscle at the same time. And maybe her interpretation of enough is that she lost the weight, she's just not adding the muscle. And she may have a valid reason behind what enough means. If she can define enough, then that gives us a great starting point to plot what moving forward looks like. Maybe we start adding more weights to her workout, or more weight, more reps with weights, whatever that looks like. Finding joy in it is just her being able to define it. You have to define it so you can find it. And I think a lot of times people look to find it from a sense of emotional fulfillment, to where joy isn't emotional fulfillment, right? It is emotional stability. It is recognizing that regardless of whatever's going on, that where I am, I'm content here. I appreciate being here. I could have been 30 pounds heavier, but you know, I'm not. So finding joy is in the midst of appreciating where you are, recognizing that you weren't where you were, but at the end of the day, there's still more to do. More to do is not a sense of perfection, it's a sense of progression. So finding joy within the space of this progressive state means that I'm not so much hyper focused on an end state that's not mine. I'm hyper focused on the end state that's defined for me. So understand what enough means to her. Then she needs to go back and plot the course so that she can achieve enough, but then also appreciate the fact that it's a progressive state.
yeah, that enough piece is really important. You know what I mean? Because and if she's working with a trainer, which seems like in this scenario she may not be, but I don't know because her trainer would already let her know where she's at for the most part, and if whatever she's doing is enough. You know what I'm saying? So, like I said, she can validate the enough piece. You know what I mean? And that's where the starting point is. But um, yeah, like I said, that enough piece is really important. Um, we all got goals. You know what I mean? Not we all, but a lot of people go out and set goals, and a lot of times we set goals with the intent to finish them, and to complete them. So this question this question is for us, and I want the chat to chime in too, because have you ever reached a goal and felt empty afterwards? And I've been thinking about this ever since I came up with the question. But I am interested to hear what you in the chat have to say about this. So, have you ever reached a goal and felt empty afterwards?
Yeah, absolutely. The goal had no meaning. It was just something I wanted to do. And I'll tell you what it is. It was making six figures. The first time I made six figures, the first time I signed the paperwork that said I'll make six figures a year, I was like, yeah, I did it. And it was like, by the time I got home, it was like, I don't feel any different. Like it didn't add anything to me. Sure, it probably gave me a little bit more coins in the bank, but it was just like, okay, you achieved that goal. Like, I mean, there was no sense of fulfillment. There was no, like, I couldn't even say I appreciated the fact that I made six figures. Not that, and I get it. I do understand that to some people that's a milestone. But it's like once you accomplish it, then what? You go out and buy something just to prove that you make six. Like it was like it was like it was like a meaningless end. Like it didn't make me feel better as a person. It didn't make me feel more fulfilled. It didn't make me like it did absolutely nothing. So it's like, sure, I did it, but then it's like, okay, now what? So when I say things like that, and when I have certain conversations and I talk about certain things like you know making money or things like acquiring things, like what does it do for you? Like who does it turn you into? Does it make you a better person? Can you help more people in theory, maybe, right? But are you really helping them just because you got more money, or are you really helping them because you have a heart to help people? That's the thing to look at. So I think in the midst of achieving a goal and feeling empty, the feeling empty part is evidence to you that your goal was meaningless. So you got the goal, now what? And that's kind of like where I was at with it.
Um, so I like that. I really like that. I want to take a totally different type of a perspective on it, or an approach. I think that you can. I think I have not put certain goals in my life because I knew that they were going to have me feeling empty afterwards. All right. So let me know if I'm on if this is if I'm on track with this. So at some point I wanted to go and I wanted to get my doctorate, right? Um but I knew that I did not want to advance anymore in my career because I'm in education right now. I was 20 years in the military. I've been in charge. I've been in leadership. I did not want to do it in education. I knew that the only reason that I don't even like school, just being honest. And I got 3 degrees, just saying, and I work in education, but I don't like I don't like school. I don't know. Maybe I'm gonna change my mind. Maybe I need to do some mindset thinking and see if I really do, because I got 3 degrees and been in education for the last almost 8 years since I've been out of the military. So, um, lost my train of thought that fast. What was I saying? What was I saying?
Doctorate.
Doctorate. Yeah. All right. Good job. So appreciate it. So at some point I wanted to go back and get my doctorate, but then I was like, I was been getting it for the own reason. It was just there was no meaning behind it. So I was just like, I'm not going out there to spend all of this money, spend all of this time writing all these paper, getting people to look at it, all these months, only to be able to write Dr. Martin behind my name. So for me, it was something that I knew wasn't going to really fulfill me. I wasn't passionate about it, but it was something that I was going to do. And at some point, it used to be a goal of mine, but it was for all of those other reasons. It had nothing to do with, anything fulfilling and that I wanted to do down the road. So am I in the ballpark with that? That's same thing.
Sure. Sure. It's like
Yeah.
putting rims on a car.
Yeah.
Unless you have a reason for doing it is just so that you can show other people that either you could do it or that's my name now. Sure, it does get you in different conversations. Sure, people may find more credibility in what you're saying, But again, I'm of the mindset, if I need doctor in front of my name for you to find credibility behind what I'm saying, then the question that I'm asking is, do I really need to be talking to you?
Hmm.
Like I think when people have the mindset that you can't listen to, that you can't learn from anybody, and they need certain credentials for that, then I think that's a problem. So and you're in the right ballpark because you already know that I was in that ballpark as well. I was in that vein as well. I actually got accepted into a doctorate program. I was like, I won't do this. And so I did one class, and I was like, nope, I'm done. I'm out.
Yeah. I didn't have no, yeah, it was just like I would have been doing it for all reasons. And even now, people still try to people still try to encourage me to go back, because I'm in education and stuff like this. Oh yeah, look good. I'm just like, bro, I'm only doing 3 more years and that's it. Like, I'm not going to be in education anymore. I don't plan on working anywhere anymore. So it's like there's really no need to. Yeah, the military could probably pay for it. I think I might have a little bit, maybe. No, I probably got enough on my GI Bill, but
But
that ain't the point.
I will add this one last piece to it.
Hmm.
You may find the meaning later.
I'm definitely open to that. Definitely open to that. I like that one. So some people believe in, manifestations, daily prayer, all of these different, brushing your teeth, taking showers, all these things, blah, 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 mindset, meditation. Right. So what about gratitude practice? Because most people don't spend time being grateful for things. Most people, even in ain't shade, but some of us, until we mature to a certain level, spend a lot of times on our knees thanking God. I mean, not thanking God, but asking. Lord bless me with this. Give me this. Help me with my job. But a lot of times we don't spend a lot of. I think we may not spend a lot of time being grateful for the things that we have. We want the new job, but we have enough. Plus, we have a good relationship, great relationship, but we want more. So, and I understand wanting more. We kind of talked about that earlier too. But how can daily gratitude practices keep us grounded while chasing big goals?
I think the how is huge because the how helps to regulate me. It doesn't make the goal a problem. It doesn't make the great relationships a problem. It doesn't make the number of great relationships a problem. It doesn't make the number of goals I have the problem. It makes how I respond to it more stable. And I think in the midst of daily gratitude practices, it helps me to regulate myself so that in the midst of great relationships, so that in the on the journey of chasing big goals, I'm not greatly moved one way or the other when things go my way or when things don't go my way. I think in the midst of, you know, daily gratitude practices as it pertains to relationship, it's not that we go out there seeking 150 great relationships. No, it's that we're seeking how we're paying more attention to how we show up for the sake of those relationships. So that means that the great relationships or the perception of great relationships to me continues to grow. What I did yesterday may not necessarily be the same thing that I do next year in the midst of that relationship. So being grounded helps me to constantly scan myself. When I'm up and down and up and down and up and down and up and down, I might be looking more at everything else external to me than I am looking at internal to me. Same thing with big goals. In the midst of chasing these goals, what I may end up doing is looking at all of the circumstances that present themselves and say something silly like the man is trying to hold me down. And sure, there may be some evidence that we may conclude to say that there might be some truth to that, but it's more truth to how I respond to it than it is that, it's systemic in nature. I say it that way. But my response is always within the locus of my control. So now that takes me to do the daily gratitude practices so that within the locus of my control, I am behaving and showing up the way that I'm supposed to incrementally throughout the course of time.
I think daily practices help keep you grounded, um, in the sense that it allows you the ability to, like you said, being able to scan, go back and look at things. But I think it also helps you, um, helps with that ego a little bit. You know what I mean? That's just me personally. I think it helps with ego, because I understand that I'm still wanting. I may still want to. Someone may still want to chase something, but when you say, "Hey, look, you know what? I'm appreciative." You can look to your left and right, and you can look up and down. You can look through your house, and you be like, "You know what? I'm okay. Everything's okay." I can still chase, and I also think that it allows us to chase without fear of failure. You know what I mean? When I can look and be thankful and be grateful for what I already have, I can chase these big goals because even if I don't make it, even if I don't achieve the goal that I'm chasing, I'm still okay because I'm thankful for, the person that's in my home with me. I'm thankful for the dog. I'm thankful for the children. I'm thankful for all of these other different things. So even if I don't, I think it helps with failure if certain goals are not achieved. If you are practicing daily gratitudes, because it helps you just see life for really what's important and what you already have, and even if I don't get it, I'm still going to be okay. So that was a good one. I like that one. Here's another scenario question. A guy always wants to be the best in his crew. Better car, better job, better vacations. His drive causes tension and jealousy. His ambition makes him hard to be around. I adjusted that a few times so it would um look the way I wanted, but not necessarily pick a side.
Sure.
So chat and everybody, like, what do you think about this? Because it happens not only to men, it happens to women too.
Don't be around them.
Mm.
I mean, it's that simple. I think behavior matters, right? I mean, I got it. You want to be the best. That sounds good. And I'm not even saying that there's anything wrong with wanting to be the best, but behaving in such a manner to where you alienate, ostracize, you antagonize, and all those other IZE words you can come up with as it pertains to interacting with people, like they don't have to be around you. When they withdraw from you, then eventually you're going to recognize that and be like, oh, wait, what happened? And then maybe somebody at that point in time will share with you, like, dude, you're difficult to be around. Like you're you're equating your ambition to human interaction, and those two should never conflict one another. It's okay to be ambitious. It's okay to, I mean, if that's where you are, if you want to have a better job, you want to have a better car, better vacations, that's okay if that's where you are. But that should not make you a difficult person to be around and where it causes tensions and things of that nature. Now, the jealousy piece, if if I'm experiencing jealousy because you want better for yourself, then that's something I got to work on within me. That's not your fault. So I think there are both measures of responsibility within this. As I'm reading this guy could be young, or this guy could be somebody who is experiencing midlife crisis. Um, but by that same token, it's important for him to recognize where he is. Jealousy, again, that's something that we have to work on within ourselves. Ask ourselves, why are we jealous when opportunities are out there that we can proactively pursue? Am I jealous because I want a better job? Am I jealous because I want a better car? Am I jealous because I want better vacations? Then go do it. Don't choose jealousy as an outlet. Look at what you're doing and recognize that your behavior now will create the future that you're going to walk into. Change the behavior.
Um, I'm gonna make this about us, but not about us, right? So we got me, Coach, Gaddy, and Roland. So if you don't know who Gaddy and Roland is, you can check us out Friday night on Hearts Men Podcast. All right, they'll be over there along with myself and Coach. Now, I'm gonna break this down into us four right here, and one person wanting to be the best. Right now, we're all on the same job. We're all in the military. We're all E5s. It's time to go to the E6 board. Right, that's just another promotion. Just for civilians, it's just going from may I say assistant manager to manager, right? So and there's a process, and then along the way, coach like, hey, you know what I mean, bro? We all cool and stuff, bro. I'm trying to get promoted, bro. I ain't trying to go to the club every weekend. You know what I mean? I ain't trying to get drunk with y'all every weekend, bro. I'm on my grind. I didn't bought me another uniform, get my class A's together, bro. I'm gonna be studying for the board. Y'all trying to get on, bro. If we don't want to get on and support him, then we ain't part of the crew. You know what I mean? I'm not saying that we have to dive in 100% with him, but there should be no jealousy. There should be no tension if one of the guys in the crew is looking to get ahead. If anything, we should be help supporting him. You know what I'm saying? But I also understand that, like you mentioned too, sometimes people get promoted and you know what I mean, and they start smelling themselves a little bit, and they start thinking that they better than the crew and stuff like that. So I can definitely see how both different depend on where you're in the situation, how you can have different perspectives. But you know what I mean, like I said, if coach trying to do good, he's trying to get promoted, bro. As me part of the crew, I want this. It shouldn't be hard for me to want to be around him. You know, if he's working out and he in the gym, 2 hours a day, and he like, look, bro, we can go out, but I really don't want to go out. But I ain't eating all that crap. You know what I mean? I don't want the 2 for 20 from Chili's. I'm gonna go in here and get on these vegetables, on this rice, and on this chicken. So I think it has to deal with um where you are and in that scenario and stuff like that. But you shouldn't be getting jealous um shouldn't be getting jealous if one of your boys or one of your crew members is trying to get ahead. Um, I like scenarios, man. Let's jump to another one. It'd be good. They have some good talking points, and I think the chat like them too. Um, she has a good job, stable income, healthy family, but still feels unfulfilled. Is she ungrateful, or is it okay to want more without guilt?
So it's kind of this is reminiscence of a previous one, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Again, good job, stable income, healthy family. And is she ungrateful for wanting more? I don't think those two are connected.
Mm,
Um, Being unfulfilled is something that she has to figure out within herself. Why is she unfulfilled? Is it that she was expecting more with a good job, a stable income, and healthy family? I don't think having those things and pursuing more, and I'm assuming wanting more equates to work related. I'm again assuming this. So does she want more from a job? Does she want more from her income? Does she want more from her
mm-hmm.
family? Like there's some things that I need to understand here. Um, it is definitely okay to want more, but the unfulfilled piece can eventually turn to guilt once she matures in her quest. So with this one, there's a lot of unknowns as it pertains to how she feels. I guess at my current state in life, having a good job, having stable income, having a healthy family, that's a place to where you should be content. You can be content, right? There's nothing wrong with feeling content and still pursuing progression, like job progression, as long as progression does not mean I am now taken away from my family, because it's easy to tip the scales one way or the other here. I think this is the space where a lot of people find themselves a lot of times. Like you have a good paying job, you have and I'm using that term intentionally, you have a good paying job that has stability and your family is thriving. You guys have the ability to go and do certain things, spend time together. Your children are participating in extracurricular activities and all this other great stuff. But then an opportunity presents itself, and now you pursue that opportunity at work because that's the direction we want to go. It's going to require more of you, more of your time. So now you're taken away from your family for the sake of job. So you've now elevated job over healthy family. And I think a lot of times when it comes down to being fulfilled, there has to be a balance to where, in my opinion, I have to say it this way, to where family is number one, job and income falls second to family. So if I have to sacrifice my family for my job, then I'm good with my current position. But if I can get the promotion, right, get a better income, by not sacrificing my family, then there's a sense that I can still feel fulfillment in there. So I think it's all about balancing when it comes down to these three things, and when it comes down to being fulfilled and not feeling guilty. Again, when you do something that tips the scales to where you sacrifice your family for the money, now you're going to end up feeling guilty ultimately. And you may not feel it initially, but eventually, it's going to work itself out to where it's going to show up, and you're going to recognize that you made a mistake chasing the dollar, as opposed to elevating the family.
Yeah. It looks like, on the outside looking in, like this person has, what most of us grew up wanting, to have a good job, have a good income, to be able to pay all my bills when I need to. I want to have a healthy family, house, blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? So I think it's definitely okay to want more without feeling guilt. But I will say this, and I will just share a little something with you guys, especially when it comes, but still feels unfulfilled. So I was over there in this same category: good job, stable income, healthy family, all of these things. The thing that I was missing was the creativity piece. So for me to help me a lot, I was unfulfilled because I wasn't creating anything. I've learned that I need to create either mentally, either on a podcast, a YouTube channel, either something with my hands. I figured out mine was the being able, the ability to create. And I think that it's like that for a lot of people. I see a lot of people who are not creating, especially as they get older, our age, and starting to retire and stuff. And they're unfulfilled in their life, and I see them either on their phones or not doing anything, and I'm just like, these people are not creating anything. So I think there's some sort of connection between being fulfilled in life and creating. Now creation looks differently to different people, but I think at some point creation has something to do with this. But that's just my 2 cents to the unfulfilled piece of this. um but I'm gonna jump into it. So we don't got that much time left. I'm gonna do one true, false, and a couple fact or myth questions. So the first true, false is this: if you're not constantly grinding, you brought up grinding earlier in the conversation. So if you're not constantly grinding, you're falling behind. True or false?
Well, the easy answer is true. That's the easy
Mm-hmm.
answer. But when you take this question and you put it at different areas of life, not so much, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because in my younger years, if I wasn't constantly grinding, I was definitely falling behind. And falling behind is basically how you would feel, because
Mm-hmm.
you're comparing yourself to other people. So even in the midst of that, the perception of falling behind was an outward perspective, not based upon what it was I was doing. So I can clearly see in different scenarios how this would be a true statement, right? If you're not constantly grinding, you're falling behind. However, the answer to this question is false. It doesn't really matter how hard you're, like, working hard only makes you tired.
Yeah.
That's and I'm not saying that there's not a thing. I'm not saying that hard work isn't a thing, but working hard, doing more of the same thing really only makes you tired.
Yeah, and most time when you hear grinding, it really ain't a good thing. You grind your teeth, they like, probably not a good thing. If your gears are grinding, then a good thing. So it also depends on your perspective on grinding too.
Yep.
Um, all right, here we go. Fact or myth? Myth, the myth, the myth, the myth, the myth. All right. Um, Gratitude kills ambition because it makes you too comfortable to chase bigger goals. Fact or myth? Gratitude kills ambition because it makes you too comfortable to chase bigger goals.
Because you read it twice, I believe they've already answered. To me, that is a myth.
I agree with that. Myth, myth, myth. Myth all day. Looking at the time, here we go. We'll try to knock these four out real quick. People who constantly chase success are usually the most unhappy.
I laugh at this question because I know for a fact that some people are putting in the chat right now that this question is a fact, but it's not.
Mm-mm.
It's not. it's neither myth nor fact, right? There's some studies, there's a lot of studies that show that there is that they're in the constant pursuit of success, you feel unhappy. In fact, the more you how does that saying go? Um, I can't remember now, but it's
Mm,
a thing to where it's never enough, right? So it becomes the thrill of the chase. And so the chase be the thing that makes them happy, not the acquisition of success. So they become successful, and then it's like, okay, I want more, and then I want more. So there are some people out there like that, but there are some people, on the other hand, who like, yeah, I'm good right here. I don't have to
yep.
constantly do that. So it's it's
Hmm.
it's it's neither or.
Yep. I get that one. Definitely get that. Fact or myth? Practicing gratitude daily can improve your mental health and boost productivity.
Ooh, easy
Fact
one,
or myth? Easy one.
easy one. Yeah,
Uh-oh.
that is definitely a fact.
There you go. Got a fact out here, folks. No myth. Got a fact. Last one. Ambition and contentment can't exist in the same space. You got to choose one.
Got to choose one.
Mm-hmm. In case somebody's like, well, I can't pick.
That is a myth.
Myth. Okay. Because it can't be an absolute. I agree with you on that. All right, man. That's the end of the show. We about to wrap it up, man. Anything that any admin notes, anything like that you want to put out before we wrap it up for tonight?
No, man. Only thing I would share is that listen, if you haven't already, make sure you hit that like button. If you didn't share, make sure you share it with somebody so they can watch the replay. Because I think this was a great show. Again, make sure you check the show notes. Make sure that you are aware. If you haven't subscribed, make sure you subscribe. That way you'll know whenever we go live on this channel. And last but not least, check out the new store. I think you guys will enjoy that.
Yeah, get you some new swag. All right, man. I guess we out. I will see you Friday.
Yes, sir.
Peace.